Good evening, White Sox fans. It is Wednesday, May 7th, and I hope everybody is recovering nicely from their Cinco de Mayo hangovers. I know I spent some time out in the wild with some friends at the old club, the campground. Had ourselves a smorgasbord, if you will, of a taco bar, which was awesome. On Saturday, we celebrated a little bit early, and you know, just enjoying the beautiful weather that's coming our way here in Chicago. We're going to get into some White Sox stuff here really quickly. I am Danny Miller. The gentleman you see sitting next to me on your screen is Jacob Thome, and this is FutureSox Hot Takes and Heaters. Uh, I see we have a chatter. Hayden Fitch went to Kannapolis this morning and is at Winston-Salem right now. So any updates you can give us, Hayden? Awesome to hear that from you in the chat. But Jacob, how you doing this evening, brother? How's your week been, man? I believe you're muted, kid.
Dude, there we go. Now you can hear me. That's important
Hey,
on a podcast. No, I made it out to the ballpark on Saturday. Got a great bobblehead. Shout out Dick Allen. His whole
yay,
family
right
was
on.
there. It was great. Watched them get destroyed. Okay, so the backstory is lifetime, not really lifetime, but like since I started tracking it, I was 9-5 all time going to Sox games. I'm currently now 9-8. I'm 0-3 on the season. Um, Not great, but
It's not on you, brother. Not on you. None of
yeah, I
this
know.
is on you.
But it's just a unfortunate coincidence. But no, other than that, going well. It's funny you mentioned the weather because I have been enjoying beautiful weather for like the past 2 months. It's been like 70 here every single day, which is hilarious because I'm 2.5 hours south of you guys, but not that
So
far south.
you've come in to the podcast to rub it in all of us, everybody that's in the greater Chicagoland area. You've come to rub it in our faces, which I
Right.
shouldn't say is we haven't had a total loss as far as weather goes here. It just seems like we get a lot of nice days during the week, and when most folks are off on the weekend, it goes right back to crap. We get rain, cold, not super cold, but
To be fair, it was
seasonally
43 at the
seasonally
ballpark
cold.
on Saturday. Did have to deal with that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So, anywho, you know, it's been a week since we last talked. And the White Sox, let me back this train up just a little bit here. You and I talked about how we thought some of the youth movement coming up last week was going to make a difference, and the White Sox might actually score some runs, and they have been. They have been scoring runs. Not, we're not talking huge bunches or anything, but they've been in games. They've been in games a lot. The offenses look slightly better over the past week. Guys like Chase Mydroth is doing his thing continually, and we're definitely going to talk more about him tonight. As everyone well knows, he's been a topic of contention in the last 24 hours, so we'll get into that. But having Rojas back, Miguel Vargas is kind of doing some things. Lenine Sosa continues to get on base. Edgar Caro is getting on base. All guys that are typically not, well, I shouldn't say typically, really haven't been part of the White Sox organization for a super long time, and don't have that stench of the past regime on them. So I think we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight, and we're going to give out some hot takes. We're going to give out some heaters at the end of the show when we get there. But all in all, I mean, as disappointing as some of these games have been, I will say that there are some things to look up to and look forward to, and there are some positives happening in at least at the MLB club, where you can kind of feel okay about what's happening. But
yeah.
then there's
Hey, speaking of positives, go to the
yeah,
chat. Hayden just mentioned Braden Montgomery just walked it off. So
yeah, promotion coming soon,
that's a pretty
incoming
big
soon.
positive. I didn't hear a word you said.
I said promotion incoming soon.
I thought he was going to make
Maybe.
it to June. I'm not sure anymore.
Yeah, I mean the guy's he's just lighting it up. Where's he at? He's like the number 26 overall top rated prospect in
Something like that.
I think by
Baseball. I didn't see
MLB.
baseball America's list anyway. But
One of them. He's pretty up there. He's having a really good start to the season, and I mean, I know it's only been a short time, and Winston, but I would not mind seeing a promotion. So let's see what the kid can do. As Hayden says, he's a stud, and we're going to go ahead and highlight that comment for her. But I'm going to read it to those who are not in the chat and live with us, listening in podcast form. Hayden said, dude is a stud. I was watching y'all's live stream, heard a loud bang, looked up, and the ball was gone. That was probably the hardest I've ever seen a baseball hit. And that's just the thing with Braden Montgomery is he's got big power potential. And I think he's got staying power just about every level that he goes to. I can't wait to see him develop and flourish and, see what he can do with the upcoming levels that he's, got ahead of him. But if he continues to mash at every level the way he has, a guy's just been a winner his whole life. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I need some of that. I need some of that energy injected into this major league ball club. And I need some of that energy. Man, I'll take it just injected right into my veins because
yeah,
some of the lackluster stuff we've been watching the last couple of years is, and I hate to run over the same crap over and over again, but you got to deal with what the White Sox are giving us here right now. You know what I mean? And that's why I want to talk about some of the positives because they are giving us that. So before we get into the positives, Jacob, you and I talked very briefly before we went live.
yeah.
Uh, and we talked about a little bit about what happened last night. But what happened last night aside, the Royals, especially in Kansas City at Kauffman Stadium, just seem to have the White Sox number. Some people are calling it the new, the new athletics.
Yeah, the
The
Coliseum.
athletics were just the White Sox could not win at Oakland Coliseum. So I want to get your opinion on what's going on at Kauffman Stadium and what is this curse that seems to be hanging over the White Sox when they travel to Kansas City?
I have video, but no audio. Can't hear a word you're saying. So I'm
Are
going
you
to
kidding?
assume you're asking me about the nightmares that are happening in Kaufman. And yeah, they're horrible. They are god awful. I mean, it's been most of last year, and then just last night, 80% chance of a win heading into the ninth. They walk a guy. Mydroth pulls a soccer move, just header, straight header. And then after that, Michael A. Taylor tried throwing it into the stands. Um, then obviously Booster forgets how to field a bunt. Maya fails to get the out at second. I have audio again, by the way.
Okay.
Um, and
I
then
don't know if that
yeah,
was a my end or your end thing. Hopefully it was just you. Otherwise,
that's
I'm just lip syncing here to the to the chat and the podcast. So my
sounds
apologies.
like a connection issue. It's probably my end.
Okay.
Um, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, and then Bobby Baseball ends it, who was picked one selection ahead of Andrew Vaughn. Not a great night
You
last
don't
night.
say. You don't say. So what do you think is the main culprit, the main objection, the main uh how shall I say, what's the word I'm looking for here? The main blockage that the White Sox are dealing with when they go to Kauffman, aside from Bobby Witt Jr. Like, what is it that we just cannot seem to put one full game together when we go to Kansas City? Do you have a thought on that? Are you with me? Can you not hear me? Uh-oh. I think we lost Jacob. I think Jacob's having some technical difficulties. So, and I don't see anybody in the chat since Hayden commented. So I hope we're still going here. But are you back?
I'm back. I don't know
Well,
what's
did
going on
I?
with my connection. I have good Wi-Fi. Doesn't matter.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to do a little quick Wi-Fi test on mine because I'm not sure if it's me.
It is
So,
definitely mine. I just checked the stream. It is 100% me. So
Roger that. Okay. Because I haven't seen a comment since we got Hayden's last one either. But yeah, I was just asking, what do you think the main obstacle is for the White Sox when they go to Kaufman? Why is it, outside of Bobby Wood Jr. being, chosen one selection ahead of Andrew Vaughn, uh, have the Royals do they have this home field thing that the White Sox can't get over? Are the White Sox, what is it? What is it that keeps the White Sox from winning games when we go to Kansas City, in your opinion?
Well, for one, they're a good baseball team. The Sox are not, so they struggle there. Two, they're quick, which I think what's the word for it? It really brings to the forefront the defensive efficiencies. Like obviously last night when the dude just knocks it off his head, that's not really, because of quickness, but there is a lot of that where like, all right, certain plays would be made against certain teams that just aren't because they have a guy like Bobby Witt. They have a guy like Michael Garcia who is extremely fast and um, could push it on the base paths. So I think that kind of and then it's a weird place for them to play. Obviously, the fountains in center. Um, it's kind of a boring ballpark, not gonna lie. In terms of what's around it, I know there was a lot of conversation about that in the offseason, I believe.
Yeah, well,
Talking
I'll
about
tell you what, I've never been actually inside Kauffman Stadium, but I have been to Kansas City. I found myself perched atop the hill on there's a little country road kind of on the backside of the stadium, just off the highway where you can get a really good view of Arrowhead and Kauffman side by side over there. And you're right, there's nothing there. But from my, experience talking to people who have been inside Kauffman Stadium, the stadium itself apparently is one of people's favorites. Even though I believe Kansas City is talking about getting themselves a new stadium here within a few years, but I could be wrong on that. But I feel like I heard something just in the last year or so
I
that they're
think they
pursuing a new stadium.
I think they're trying to move both of them to the other state. I don't remember which side they're on now. I believe they're on the Missouri side, and they're trying to move them over to Kansas. Something like that. It's something about it's political, of course, but I
Oh, I'm
know I
sure it
definitely
is.
heard that about Arrowhead. Obviously, those two stadiums are right next to each other. Um,
Yeah,
so
that whole situation's weird because I mean the city pretty much runs right. I mean half the city is in
right,
Kansas, half the city is in Missouri, and the stadiums are only like 10 minutes outside of downtown on the freeway, maybe 12. I
right.
don't even know. It's not that far, but the cool thing about that town is it doesn't take very long. Is kind of spread out as some of the things are. Like
Hmm.
coming from Chicago, where we are just bound by traffic almost constantly, it seems like you can get from one end of town to the other. It seems like in a blink of an eye. So,
Yeah.
anywho, back to baseball. Uh, as you talk about how the Royals are a good team, and if we look back on the history of the last couple of years of what's going on within the White Sox organization, and it's been a point of contention for a couple of years now, where people are like, why are we hiring so many people outside, or we're pulling people away from the Kansas City Royals organization? In your opinion, now looking at what Kansas City is able to do the last season and going into the beginning of this season, do you think some of those hires might actually have some merit now?
I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, Getz was a Kansas City guy. He obviously came from Chicago, but then like I'm trying to think of some of the names. I really can't. Oh, I know Banny was a Kansas City-ish guy.
I mean,
There were
let's
a
just
couple of them. But like,
there's just a lot. There's a lot of people.
right?
We all
Yeah,
know
yeah.
Pedro came from there, and Pedro, I mean, for lack of better terms, he kind of just crapped the bed.
Right.
Said all the right things, but crapped the bed. Everybody talked about how he was a man of many hats. I think he wore too many hats and was not ready for the dugout. He's probably still a great baseball guy, just not in that managerial capacity in the dugout. But so many people on social media, so many, I mean, even writers and experts were like, oh my goodness, like, what are the White Sox doing? Are they trying to become this putrid Kansas City team? But now,
Yeah.
if you look at the history of where Kansas City wasn't really all that putrid, they had some really good stretches in the tens, right? Between 2010 and 2020. And then they kind of fell and they really got bad for a while. And then they started to pick themselves up again. And now we're looking at a team that's built really well. So I guess the thing is Are the White Sox really dumb for hiring all those people? Is there a reason for people to be mad about all the hires that came from outside of the organization from the Kansas City Royals club?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't. I mean, at the time, I get it. Like they were a bad baseball team, but they've turned things around and they've done it quickly, right? Like they've added some pieces. Obviously, when you have the second, probably not a second best player, but top five baseball player um, in the planet, and Bobby Witt Jr., that helps. And the Sox are desperate for a superstar like that, but um, they've really complemented it well with developing a lot of younger kids. Pasquantino is a name that comes to mind. Obviously, Perez isn't a kid at all, but um,
Well,
they've generated
Salvi's
some
been
nice
around for a
pieces.
while.
Yeah, Salvi's been a while. Um, and then they've made a really good, pitching signing. Seth Lugo. Um, they make the trade for the dude that pitched the other night. What was his? I forget his name, but um, he was in the Chapman deal. So they've done a lot of good, smart baseball things. They've gotten some veteran relievers, and they're doing the small market baseball thing right. In terms of developing your own talent, um, going out and signing cheaper guys who end up becoming good. Um, so don't love their farm system, but other than that, I mean, they have a pretty bright future. They can put some offense around it.
Okay. All right, I can work with that, and I tend to agree with a lot of what you're saying, just because they're obviously the proof is in the pudding, right? We're looking at a team that has kind of started to resurrect itself and become one that other ball clubs not only should respect, but they kind of have to respect them, right? Um, but I was gonna wait a little bit to bring this name up, but since you kind of mentioned that Kansas City has found some, maybe homegrown superstars, and they have that Bobby Witt Jr. in their system. I kind of want to talk about Luis Robert Jr. here with the White Sox, who, maybe his numbers don't completely jump off the page right now, but he does seem to be kind of starting to warm up a little bit here. He's not only is he getting on base, we're seeing a little bit of that power. He's getting some extra base hits here and there. He's not just walking anymore. He is actually putting the bat on the ball. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago where everything looked good, and it was just a matter of him doing what he said during his interview about, now he's kind of dialed his zone in and being selective with his pitches, but he also said he wasn't taking advantage of some of the mistakes because now the pitchers actually have to throw to him because he is going to walk more, and when he gets on base he is going to steal because still leading the league right now with
Yep.
like 15 or 16 steals. Doing all these things, I think the fan base is still like, okay, let's go ahead and sell now. Let's get something for him. He's shown that he can stay healthy. He's shown that he can run, at least for a little while early in the season, and he's starting to warm up. Let's get what we can for him. I want your opinion on whether or not you think Luis Robert Jr. is somebody. Do you trade him at the deadline? Do we start throwing offers out there now and start, shopping him again? Because let's be honest, there's no blockbuster deals happening in the first week or two of May, right? Even though everybody's like, get rid of him now, get what you can for him. It just doesn't typically happen. But now we get into June, the early part of June, and teams are starting to look at that. Hey, we're only a couple games out. We could use some help here, and maybe we can run away with our division. Do you think that the White Sox should trade him? Which, in my opinion, is probably still going to be short selling him, even if he does have a few good months here for, compared to what his potential is? Or do you think he's a guy that maybe the White Sox can build around to have that Bobby Witt Jr. type player who's supposedly supposed to have all five tools working for him?
I would be shocked if Luis Robert Jr. is on the roster by July 1st. 4th of July rolls around, he'll be in a different team. And I agree with it. I get it. He's, 1 month, or we all saw what he did in 23. He was second in MVP voting, but like there's also 2024 where he gets injured early part of the year. Then he's still injured, struggles through it. He's also one injury away from, not being on the team. And, um, obviously the injuries have affected him in terms of when he's had them early in the year and then come back. He's had poor seasons after that. Listen, he stayed healthy all of 23 and put up a great season, but that's his only show of work as of right now. Obviously, he's doing a lot of good things, but there's a team in the NL Central. I believe they're second in the NL Central that I would be really interested to see if they have recalled on a previous offer to maybe up that and see what they can get out of him. I would be really shocked if he doesn't go there. They're desperate of outfielders are the Cincinnati Reds, and he's cheap enough for a superstar that they might be able to take a risk.
Okay. All right. All right. I might circle back to that a little bit later, but I just wanted to throw it out there since you brought up, Bobby Witt and what the Royals are doing. Uh, but, back to what we have been going through with this Royals team. Last night, let's just get into it. Let's run with this one for a little bit because I don't know if you are like me, and I saw Twitter immediately after that game, the way the eighth and ninth inning went in that game, with Chase Mydroth getting hit in the head, just losing a pop up in the lights, and I mean it wasn't even close to his glove. I mean it just donked him in the head, bounced out into the outfield, and then Taylor has an opportunity, what looks like, to make a play and throws the ball away.
Yeah.
And then not long after that, we get a Jacob Amaya just web gem to stop a run from coming in and stop a ball from going out into the outfield, and then making an errant throw to Chase Mydroth to pull him off the bag where everybody's safe. The run scores and ties up the ball game late in the game. How does that make you feel? Like when we see the production that we've seen, it's only a slight uptick in production over the last week, but it is an uptick. It gives you kind of hope that there are good things going. How do you feel when you're like, okay, there's finally something to feel okay about? Just kind of okay, but it's this different feel that we've been talking about a little bit, pretty much all season, and we're like, oh my God, maybe things are going to turn. Maybe we will hit 55 or 60 wins, which is ridiculous to even talk about right now. You're like getting excited for 55 or 60 wins.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the way that game ended last night?
So Mydroth makes that mistake, and I'm just thinking, here we go. Like this is it. It's gonna happen.
White Sox things.
Every White Sox fan watching that game was like, "This I've watched this movie before." Sure enough, in between the Amaya errant throw, Cam Booster forgets how to field a bunt. Like just straight up, just like walks over to it, looks at third, and then doesn't throw to first. Because you think if he gets that one, then the strikeout, then Witt flies out because Robert's on. That's the game. Just weird baseball. The White Sox went full White Sox last night, and it was sad because you could see it coming. 2-1 lead. They have a chance to make it. I think they could have been 4-2 in May, and then like Mydroth just can't field it, and like, all right, it's over.
Well, and the thing is, it's like, dude, it's looking like you're finally going to get off the schneid at Kauffman. You're 0 for 7, I believe it was last year. And then the first game of the series, you lose that one. You drop the first game, you're like, man, we're 0 for 8. 8 straight losses at Kauffman Stadium. And finally, the offense does just enough to have a lead going late in the game. And Cam Boozer does what Cam Boozer does so far this season. And I hate to beat up on a guy, but man, why we're giving this guy high leverage opportunities and late in games, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm just not a fan. I'm sorry. Cam, if you hear this, dude, Miguel Vargas seems to pick it up after I've kind of talked some crap about him, and I'm glad I was wrong about him. Miguel, thank you for making me look like a dummy. I appreciate that. Continue to make me look like a dummy. Cam Boozer, if you're listening, you need to get your shit together. Pardon my French. Get it together, or you just know that we're going to go through this a little bit in this show tonight. We're going to run down a list of guys I'm sure you know are chasing you. They're looking, they're itching for your spot, homie. And you're not the only one in the bullpen, but you got some work to do.
The entire
But yeah,
bullpen, man.
man,
You guys,
you're gonna get off the schneid and you lose in the White Soxiest of White Sox ways. It's like they find new ways to lose
yeah.
over and over and over again. And I never thought one of them was gonna be taking a pop off the dome.
Especially like not him. Like if Lenine Sosa did that, I'd be like, all right, I expect it. But like Chase is a little bit better of a second baseman. Like dude just lost it in lights. And then
Yeah.
like no offense to Lenine Sosa, by the way, just not a great defensive second
No, I
baseman.
mean, anybody though, you're a major league ball player, and I get it,
Right.
things happen, but that is got to be one of the most embarrassing ways to put your team in a bad situation and potentially end up losing the game, which did happen. And it was just one of those things where everything seemed to snowball, like you said. I
Yeah.
mean, it goes off his dome, and immediately you're like, "Oh, here we go,"
Mm-hmm.
and then the throw gets away, and then a great play and another throw pulls a guy off a bag, and you've got a pitcher who doesn't know how to field his position, and it's just like, what are we watching here? Venable gets his team and his guys more ready than I feel like I've seen the last couple of managers in a while, and we actually feel like we're watching guys who are baseball players instead of guys who are just going through the motions, and the
Mm-hmm.
vibe is different. And then you do this, it's like 2024 all over again.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more of this crap I can take, but hopefully that's an outlier. But did you get a chance to see any of social media after that game last
I
night?
saw a couple of good tweets.
Yeah.
By the way,
The
the
amount of
appearance
people,
of
go
Chase
ahead.
Mydroth is getting dragged on Twitter. It's kind of
And that's
very
kind of
sad.
what I wanted to talk about a little bit. Sorry for stepping on you, but
No, go
the
ahead.
amount of people calling for Chase Mydroth's head, like in almost literally because he took one off his head. But I mean, the amount of people that are just like, nope, done with him. Get him off my
Yeah.
team. Like, wait a minute, dude. This has been one of your most productive players at the plate this year. Whether or not he's a slap singles hitter, he might stretch out a double here and there. But not only that, he's been probably your best defensive infielder, at least
Yeah.
to this point, or pretty close to this point.
Yeah. I think Vargas is up there too, but
Yeah,
either of those
oddly
two.
enough,
Yeah, right. The guy we
the
all
guy,
thought was going to be a hole at third base.
right, he guy who has been in the past a
Yeah.
dumpster fire with the glove, is now looking like he might actually be able to field a position or two. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, but I mean, I think Mydroth is top 10. No, he's probably not top 10. I think he's about top 20 in all of rookies in WAR and B WAR. So, like, this isn't like it's, Gage Workman or, this isn't like Jacob Amaya going out and doing that. It's, a guy who has impressive prospect pedigree. This also wasn't a guy that's like a 13th round pick. No offense to Brooks Baldwin. Like this is a guy who like is a legitimate like piece of the future. Like this Chase Mydroth could legitimately be your leadoff hitter for the next 15 years, and it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. Like if he's truly going to hit 300, I know he's not hitting that right now, but developing. If he's going to hit 300 on base at 400, I don't care if he only hits singles. I don't need him to be a 20 home run guy. He does have
no,
some power though. He showed that in Charlotte.
he did.
If he could be a potential double digit home run guy from the leadoff spot, perfect. Welcome back, Nicky Two Strikes. The good version.
I was gonna say
But
this is not the broken version of Nikki Two Strikes. We got the version of Nikki Two Strikes that came in cocky and was like, "I'm gonna
yeah,
hit whatever it was. I'll have 10,
40,000 hits.
yeah, and 10 home runs at the end of the season." And we're like, oh, "Okay, all right, settle down, Nikki. Naperville,
Yeah,
Nikki."
if there's another bad infielder for the Sox. But no, I mean, like,
Naperville, Nikki had a better chance of hitting 10 home runs. That's all I'm gonna say.
I won't disagree with you. But no, he's an actual, Mydroth is a legit player. Unlike some of these, he's not a Joshua Palacios type. It's not like some guy we picked up off the scrap heap. Like
Oh,
he's a guy who legitimately could
gotta chill.
play second or short for the extended future for the White Sox and be very good in the leadoff spot.
Absolutely. I see Uncle Ted's in the chat. Thanks for checking in. As usual, Uncle Ted, one of our most consistent chatters. He just says, let just let Noah and Hagen dominate lefty stretches in innings 5 through 8. And that's going back to when we were talking about how the bullpen's kind of blown some games for us late here. We are going to get into some of that pitching a little bit here, Uncle Ted. So just give us some time. We kind of have a general, I don't know, guideline, timeline of what we want to go run down here. But hang tight, dude. We're going to get to that pitching. And
Yeah.
anybody who's listening, we are going to kind of run down some names of some guys that we think could and possibly will very soon make their way into the bullpen. So, but yeah, you know what? I feel like we beat up on last night's game enough since Uncle Ted's given us that segue. Jacob, who let's move on to that. Who do you want to see, or who do you think has the potential to be in the bullpen shortly, and who do you want to see replaced? Who do you want to see, maybe somebody get a shot and get a real shot at taking some innings in the bullpen, and maybe even giving the White Sox a shot at winning some games there?
Yeah, let me read you off some ERAs from the White Sox bullpen. Cam
All right.
Boozer, 540. Isert, 511. Let's see. Tyler Gilbert, good old 559. Leisure, a little bit better, 4.5. And then we have Old Schuster and Wilson, who are plus 450. All
Yeah.
those guys can.
And then my guy, who I have touted all year this year and wanted to see him in the back end of the bullpen, maybe as a setup guy or even as a closer eventually when he was ready, Fraser Ellard, comes back from injury and goes right back down again.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Penn Murphy, by the way, who got sent down, my 2025 White Sox All-Star pick, is now pitching in AAA.
Yep.
Blew up. No, but I mean, there are some legitimate names to watch in the bullpen. Addison Coffey is a guy I know Ian's brought up a couple of times. He made a spot start, not really a spot start, more of an opener type of thing for a bullpen piece, but he's got a 3.38 ERA, I think. He's been a name to watch for a while. This will take a little bit longer just because he just got to Charlotte, but Wikelman Gonzalez in the bullpen has been fantastic early. He's a guy that if he gets it figured out quickly and he continues on this trend, I think he's pitched 3 games. What's going on, Trey?
You did, Trey?
And then
Good to see you.
He still hasn't allowed a run. They want to, if they want to bring him up quickly, if he continues to pitch that well, wouldn't mind that. Chase Plymell, I believe, was a undrafted free agent.
Thanks, Trey.
And then he's got, I think, a sub-2 ERA in a couple appearances for the Knights. Dalton Roach is another guy, just another young, just out of nowhere guy. But putting out some decent numbers in Charlotte. And those are all guys who have yet to MLB debut. I think there's another name that is probably not suited for this podcast, but I'll bring him up anyway. And that is Iro Iriarte, who has been horrible as a starter this year in Charlotte. He's got a 7.71 ERA, I think, horrible. And with the emergence of
his thing is he has that every time he gets out there, he has that one inning.
Yeah.
He has that one inning. It just hurts him. I think it's just a matter of consistency for him. But I don't know as long as that inning isn't the first inning, maybe he could be used as a piece in the bullpen where you just need to go. You need somebody to eat an inning, come out and gas. I mean, just absolutely gas 3 guys,
right,
and then sit them down to get through that inning. I could see it happening. By the way, Trey Williams and go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say he's good in the bullpen last year. So
he was absolutely. And I'm going to point out Trey. I follow Trey on the old tweet machine, and Trey was I believe it was last night was hanging out watching some baseball in Minnesota. So how'd that go, Trey? If you want to just let us know in the comments, it looked like a really good night for some ball, and you didn't have to sit in Kansas City and watch Chase Mydroff take one off the dome, which he did say last night was ... I don't know if you got into the stream a little bit late here, but we spent the better part of the first half an hour talking about how bad the White Sox are at Kaufman. So, and last night's just absolute, I don't know how you want to call it. It was an implosion. It was a train wreck. that last 2 innings. So, but yeah, man. Oh, Jacob, where'd you go? I feel like I still
One of
hear you.
these days, I'll remember to charge my devices. It
Was it
wasn't
that?
today. I had to plug my charger in real quick, and I didn't want people to just like see me duck off to the side.
Oh, yeah, you're doing things under the desk. Yeah, very professional
That's
of
on
you.
the Patreon channel. Just
Yeah.
kidding.
So,
Just kidding.
all right, all right, all right, all right. So, anywho, any particular of the names you brought up, who do you want to see come to the bullpen like now? And
Coffee.
who are you replacing first?
Addison Coffee. Jeez. Isert, I guess. He's horrible.
He is.
Brandon Isert's horrible.
It would be for me. It would be between him and Boozer. Although, like I said, Boozer, I guess is he's another one of those has ups and downs. But man, when his downs come, it's like Jesus, I can't take this much more. So
My only thing with Boozer, and I'll throw Wilson into this a little bit, and Gilbert, is they have a history. Like last year, all three of those guys are pretty good. So
yeah,
like,
I just wish that they would continue being good.
right, correct, and
You
that's the
can't
issue.
seem
Like,
to get.
how long of a leash you get? Where like Isert has no history of doing anything productive in the majors. So like, I would give those three guys a little bit longer of a leash than I would give a guy like Brandon Isert.
Uncle Ted brings up Andrew Dahlquist, and you know what? I was a fan of Andrew Dahlquist when they signed him. It feels like a million years ago now, and it did take him a while to kind of start putting his best stuff together here. And he was originally drafted as a starter, but as a reliever, he's really kind of shown some promise this year. Especially this season, I should say. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's quite ready for the show yet, but I am not. Of I'm not against maybe giving him a shot and see how he handles the pressure. He's a little bit older than we would have liked to have seen him when he makes his way up. But I mean, sometimes, like they say, linear development is not linear. So yeah, what the hell? Throw him out there and see what happens. But I think I'm going to move on because I saw a comment come up by, Mr. Trey Williams, always on top of it with some really good stuff. He says the guys that he wants to see come up are like you, Addison Coffee. And then he says bring up Elko and Jokes in that order. So let's just go ahead and let's jump on that Elko train for a minute. We talked about it a little bit last week. I'm going to continue to fan those flames. Ian probably would fire both you and I if we didn't talk about Elko a little bit tonight. Dude, there's just no reason to not talk about him.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What can we add to what we talked about last week? Because I'll give you what I got. It's going to be short and sweet. I hope you got more than I do. Andrew Vaughn still sucks. Maybe he was broken by the White Sox, but he still sucks. I don't give a damn about his BABIP and hard hit rate, and he's just unlucky. He's been that way for 4 out of the 5 years he's been in professional baseball. What do you think, sir?
Andrew Vaughn's starting to heat up a little bit. I'm just saying. Listen. Hold on. Before I say
you've
that,
been on this train all year, man.
listen. Before I say that,
Swinging
if
from
I
his
was the
nuts.
GM of the White Sox, I would option Andrew Vaughn. I would bring up Tim Elko. But just to give some like, what is like the potential like? All right, let's attempt to explain what Chris Getz is going through. Vaughn's hitting 300 in his last 8 games.
Ugh.
3 driven in, a couple of extra base hits. I'm just saying it's coming around a little bit. I'm not saying this isn't a Andrew Vaughn is the future of the Chicago White Sox. He's a future face. But
whoa. Go ahead, continue. I'm gonna
I get
comment here in a minute.
I get the potential. I understand kind of where Chris Getz is going. We're like, do you really want to send a guy down when he's on a heater? Which right now, listen, he's hitting 300 in his last 8 games. That's a productive hitter. But like the issue I have with it is like today you bring up Nick Maton, a first baseman. not named Tim Elko. No, no, listen. I just
He does
said
not
not a
he
future.
doesn't think it.
No,
I've been giving Jacob crap about it, but he does not think that Vaughn is a future star. But I am gonna. Okay, so Nick Maton, please go ahead, finish that
yeah,
thought.
but listen, you bring up a dude who was already here and he was horrible, and then he played 3 games in Charlotte at a 450 OPS, was went 1 for 10, and that's you. I don't get it. Like, and I get the frustration of if they're gonna bring up Elko and they continue to play Andrew Vaughn, Getz is never gonna hear the end of it. Oh, you brought this dude up and you're not gonna play him because like that's gonna be a thing where like at least Elko can get consistent at bats in Charlotte, and then I think the hope is that they can trade Andrew Vaughn. Good luck. But yeah, I do very partly. Again, if I was a GM, I would bring up Tim Elko. Just putting that out there. But if I was a
So I think
GM,
I'm with you,
but I
and
get
I
it.
think the only thing slowing this whole thing down is Miguel Vargas playing a good defensive, both third and first base when he's out there, and his bat's heating up a little bit, and Vaughn is hitting in the DH spot more often this year than I think he has in past years. If we look at the small sample size that this season is,
Yeah.
uh, but here's my thing: the guy's been unlucky his whole career, like I said. Aside from one season, he is not the ideal size of a first baseman. His power potential, although yes, he hit 20 home runs or he's close to 20 home runs in a lot of seasons. You just expect more from a corner
Yeah.
infielder in baseball these days. So that brings me to the question that I left highlighted in the comments, or I should say the comment that I had highlighted in the chat. Uncle Ted says, trade Vaughn to the Boston Red Sox. And I have to throw all kinds of flags on that play because what in the world? Yes, the Red Sox have an injured star first baseman that they need to replace, but what in the world do you think makes you think that the Red Sox want Andrew Vaughn when you can find a first baseman that's at least 6 foot 6'1" minimum,
Yeah.
who can hit bombs and play bad defense? You can find that anywhere.
Yeah.
Why would you want a guy who's 5'9" or whatever he's listed at taller than that? But you'll never convince me that even with lifts on, he's anywhere close to the size that they have him listed at. What makes you think that Boston wants him? I really
Right.
want to know. They're we can talk about potential replacement. Okay, Rizzo, potential replacement. Yeah, he's there right now. But do you honestly think that Boston in that division wants secondhand garbage? I'm going to say no. They're going to be making deals with somebody else before they even call the White Sox.
Yeah, I mean it's hard. I mean, I will say this: the White Sox did get something for Eloy Jimenez last year, and he was god awful.
He
Now
isn't. He's not
that
good this
return
year either.
has since retired from baseball, but like, and it was a decent return too. Like Trey McGowan before he retired was a decent bullpen arm. Like there's a shot, but like I don't know. He'd have to continue hitting something. Like it's going to be hard because the bat has to be above average because the defense is well below average. And what contender? Obviously, we bring up the Red Sox, but like I just I don't know. Like, but the thing with Gavin Sheets, and Gavin Sheets is brought up here,
Yeah.
and
By the
Gavin
way,
Sheets had,
Uncle Ted says that's what everyone thought about Gavin Sheets. And go ahead,
yeah,
continue your thought, and I'll
Gavin
give
Sheets
you
at
mine on
least
that.
a purpose. He mashed righty hitting. Like there was a purpose for Gavin Sheets, and he played an okay first base. Not great, but he wasn't as bad as Andrew Vaughn. But like, what does Vaughn do that's like special? He hits below batting average. Like he's not a great average guy. He's a 20 home run, not really because he's never hit 20 home runs, but a 20-ish home run guy. He drives in about 50 back. Like you can find that for a lot cheaper than 6.5 million, and you don't have to trade anything for him. So I think, but I think that's the hope for the White Sox is that they're going to be able to flip him at the trade deadline for a flyer, and then give Elko the reign. And another comment before was, Why don't they play them both? Why doesn't, Elko, let's say, for example, play first and Vaughn DHs, but then if Dice gets the day off, then Carroll can't hit. So you're kind of in a pickle there where, like, you want to keep that DH spot open because you'd like to get the bat of Edgar Carroll in the lineup as much as possible. So
And here's the other thing about
two
Sheets too.
right now.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to step on you, but the other thing I wanted to just bring up about Sheets is, Andrew Vaughn only played 50 some odd games in the minors total. Then he had the COVID season where he played in up in Schaumburg at the Boomer Stadium, but Gavin Sheets had more time to develop in the minor leagues, and there were times in his minor league career where he raked. We saw it. We knew what the potential was. So yeah, you're seeing the upside now, and the White Sox organization maybe did him wrong as well too by putting him, or actually he might have done himself wrong by trying to turn himself into his dad and be an outfielder. Larry Sheets took him under his wing and said, okay, you want to give yourself an opportunity where he was potentially blocked by a number 4 overall pick in Andrew Vaughn, and everybody knew it. So you know, uh, Gavin Sheets, I think, yeah, you're seeing some upside now, and let's give that a little bit more time too, because obviously it's a very short span that we're looking at here early in 2025, but potentially he looks like he's pretty good, and as Trey says, he's kind of come back down to earth as well. Trey says he's been asked the last 3 weeks, but I don't know if I'd say he's been asked, but he definitely was what he did when he was starting the season on an absolute tear. Uh that being said, I'm gonna go ahead since we're on the Elko Sheets Vaughn, thing at first base. Did you happen to see the Tyler Osick tweet that has now since been deleted about or I'm sorry, about Andrew's work ethic?
Sox lose 2-1, by the way.
Yeah,
Had the runner at third, couldn't bring him in. Um,
10 straight in Kaufman.
yeah.
10 straight losses in Kaufman. We just cannot win a ball game there.
No, I did see the tweet. Also, very curious on who in the organization forced him to bring it down. I would assume that was somebody.
I don't know. I assume maybe it came from where he's coaching in college now as well too. I don't know.
Yeah,
Some
that's
people
true.
saw that as unprofessional, but I have some thoughts on that. But I want to get yours before we get into that.
Um, I'm not really. I mean, listen, he's an Arizona kid. He's lived in Arizona his whole life. Obviously, being down there, he knows the area well. I'm not shocked that, like, he's not a supreme work ethic thing. I will say though, I don't think it was helped. There's been reports out there that quite a few people on the White Sox team, and especially when he got to the team, were not high work ethic people. Cough, cough, Yohan Moncada, cough, cough, Eloy Jimenez. Um, and I think there was a culture problem um, between LaRussa and um, Grafal. Obviously, I think there was a well noted culture problem within that organization that probably didn't help a young kid coming into the organization. So I'm not really surprised, but there were also no veteran leaders. Like, I'm surprised, but that Jose didn't do anything about it. Obviously, Jose at this point, I don't think would have been with the team. I believe he was in rookie camp at this time, but, like, you know, there wasn't a ton of veteran leadership for him afterwards, and that's kind of the result of it. I think it's just a bad culture situation. And that's what happens in bad culture situations.
So you're telling me you believe that what Tyler Osick put out there is true?
I don't know if I believe it. I don't think I find it too outrageous to be untrue.
Okay. All right. I'll go with that. So I'm going to give you my opinion because I agree pretty much with everything you said. The culture was bad. There was a lack of leadership. The veterans that were part of the organization at the time that should have taken some of these guys under their wings all sounded like they were disgruntled. You had the Tim Andersons who, in the late teens and early 20s kind of had some good years. People thought was not only the face of the organization, but was kind of leading the let the kids play let him, change the game movement, and a lot of people were there for it, but there was a lack of veteran leadership in the clubhouse and at camp, and I don't disagree with any of that stuff, but as Trey talks about, you had Lance Lynn and Dallas Keuchel, who both have kind of come out with, and sounded like they had some pretty bad attitudes while they were in that clubhouse. We know Yohan Moncada, not actually Yasmani Grandal, apparently was kind of a clubhouse cancer, and we found that out. And I heard that, believe it or not, from a one Tyler Osick long before it came out anywhere. I had gotten, well, maybe not me, but somebody I know had gotten some quotes, and I won't repeat those quotes here, but some things were said. They made their way to Twitter, but I'm not here to kind of, I don't want to defile anybody's name. I will say this: whether or not you agree with Tyler Osick's approach to those tweets, and you agree with the professionalism behind them, and the type of teammate that would throw that kind of thing out there. But I will say this: everything that has come down behind the scenes and the whispers that have come from him, and I won't get into the full line of them, within I would say a few weeks to a few months, every time that we'd heard anything, it always turned out to be true. It made its way into the public arena on its own, and every single one. So, I don't know. And it's a thing where, yeah, he might be disgruntled a little bit because he won the batting title, the MILB batting title, the one season. He came back the following season. He kind of just, fell flat on his face and was let go by the organization. Although, if we look at that kind of production that he had in one season, and then he comes out and he has a few months where he doesn't do well, typically a guy young in the lower levels of your organization gets another opportunity. You get a chance to break out of that. He was probably just as vocal in the clubhouse and in the organization as he has been with some of these tweets. But one thing's for sure, one thing's for certain: he's never, as far as I know, anything that has been said by him, it's true. You might not,
Yeah.
you don't have to like his approach. You don't have to like what he has to say, but he speaks honestly. So I admire him for that. There's no filter, and good for him for not having a filter, because sometimes that's the only way to get things, they bring things to light. Whether or not that's going to do anything for his future and his stock in the game of baseball and coaching, I hope it doesn't, because sometimes you need somebody to light that fire. So,
Yeah. I
anywho,
just don't think he would have any motivation. I mean, I don't think there's a motivation for him to just randomly wake up and be like, "Oh yeah, Andrew," just tell us random lie about Andrew Vaughn. And
right?
like the
And I
lie
mean,
makes sense.
and that's the thing. You could say, "Oh, he's disgruntled." I mean, if he's still disgruntled at this point, he's been outside of the organization for years. Probably doesn't have much or any contact with Andrew Vaughn at all anymore. I don't think that, it's like, oh my God, can't stand Andrew Vaughn. I'm going to throw him under the bus right now. Like, why do it now? Why not
Yeah.
do it back when those scars of getting cut from the organization after winning the batting title are fresh? Like, don't tell me he's been stewing on this thing for this long. There's no reason for that. So, it is what it is. And I'm going to leave it at that. I don't believe that there's any mistruths to it, and that's that. So, the only thing I will say is, if it is, as true as I believe it is, I'm done with Andrew Vaughn. Get
Yeah.
rid of him. To me, you're not going to find a value unless this guy all of a sudden finds work ethic. And by the way, Tyler Osick is not the only one to be leaking a bad work ethic from Andrew Vaughn. This is not something new. If whether or not you've heard it in the past, this has been talked about by other people. It's
Right.
maybe been kind of on the low, on the hush hush, but it is not something that's new. Guy got, like he said, got handed the keys to MLB stardom, and he crashed that bus on his
Hard.
own. So Anywho, we are about 55, 56 minutes into the show. I think it's about time to wrap it up because, we reflected on some positives from the youth movement, as we probably will continue to do. We've reflected on some just some awful times at Kauffman Stadium and some White Sox issues that seem to just keep popping up and losing games in the White Soxiest of ways. But I think it is time for some hot takes and heaters to wrap up the show. What do you think?
Sounds good with me.
So, what do you have for us this week? And I'll let you choose whether or not you want to start with a heater or a hot take. Oh, did I catch you off guard with this? Come on, man. It's
You
in the
did.
name of the
I'm trying
show,
to
brother.
think. Yeah, I know. No, I have both prepared. Let's start with a hot take.
And if you guys in the chat have any, by all means, throw them out there. Hot takes, heaters. Let's talk about them. We got a couple minutes here before we sign off. So go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, so hot take number one. I don't have multiple, so don't call me for number two. Not Dylan. Why Chris Getz will end up winning all three major trades he's made so far. In the Dylan Cease trade, the Eric Fetty trade, and the Garrett Crochet trade.
Okay, but let's preface that. What if Miguel Vargas falls flat on his face? Because I do believe you're thinking that he wins that trade with another player that came over in that.
By the way, I cannot hear you. My Wi-Fi is actively dying.
Okay, never mind. I was going to say, can you hear me
I
now?
can hear you now. Yep.
All right. I was just asking. So just to preface this, that Miguel Vargas, I was going to say, even if Miguel Vargas falls flat in his face, I believe you're thinking he wins that trade because of another player that came over.
Yeah, shout out Joel
Yeah.
Perez. Not the show to talk about it, but
Right.
pretty
We'll
darn
leave
good
that up
player.
to we'll leave that to Ian and James to talk about Gerald Perez. But man, dude's on fire, looking like a real stud at the moment. So I'll agree with that. All right, what's hot take number 2, buddy?
I don't think I have a hot take number two. Oh, here's my other hot take. Penn Murphy will not be the White Sox All-Star in 2025.
Really? I
It
mean,
was
come
a
on,
hot
that
take.
like that you're just gonna give me the throwaway? That was
I don't
it.
know
I
if I
mean,
have another good one.
you don't have to.
All-Star, but
Let's get into a heater.
okay. How about Josh Rojas, who went 1 for 4 today and kind of ruined my heater? But was he your heater?
No,
Oh, okay, good.
he was not.
3-6 to start his White Sox career with 3 singles and 2 walks. But you know what? I'll take it. 1,100 OPS since coming back from the injury. Stolen base 2 on the broken toe. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty good.
All right, I'm gonna throw 1 and 1 at you, and I think both are probably gonna surprise you a little bit here. Because I took the easy way out a little bit last week, so I'm gonna after I doo-dooed on my heater. I actually am going to give Andrew Vaughn my heater this week, just because even if I don't agree with the fact that I believe he's just not the answer for the future, and I'm not against giving him an opportunity. Maybe he puts it together, but I really, really would like to see anyone else, as Trey said in the chat earlier, anybody, just give somebody a shot, because let's face it, if the offense comes around and the defense is still shit, plain and simple, I'd rather have somebody who's not a Lilliputian at first base. Gulliver's Travel reference there, little people. Anywho, my hot take, and I said earlier in the show that I was going to circle back to this. Luis Robert Jr. I want to see him. I want to see him stay. I do believe he can stay healthy. I do believe he can be the Luis Robert Jr. that we all hoped and prayed for and saw signs of a few years back. I want that guy to be the guy that they can build around. And because of some of his struggles and his injury history, I believe they can probably get him for a relatively, how shall we say, frugal? Maybe not frugal, but a relatively, let's just use that, frugal contract. because he hasn't quite lived up to his potential. I think if we can get another extension on him for maybe just another year or two to make him prove, or sign his option and maybe give him another extension. And yeah, I'd like to be able to see them build around a potential five-tool superstar. That's my hot take.
Don't think it's horrible. Listen, the
So,
defense and the base stealing are always going to be there.
Uncle Ted, I'm going
The
to
hitting,
highlight this comment for the last time. I'm just and I'm not. I'm just messing with you. But I swear to God, it's like 3 times a week. Uncle Ted says trade Lewis Robert for Lazaro Montez immediately. And I mean, that doesn't sound like a bad trade, but I don't know if anybody's buying it.
also, are they going to move J Rod out of center? I know that's been the talk, but like that seems like a weird fit to me. And I know they need bats. Like I get it. The team desperately needs offense. Go get an offense. But like, are you moving J Rod, who's starting to heat up out of center field because he's a pretty darn good center fielder? And then if you're trading for Robert, you're not going to play him in right. So it's a weird fit. Whereas Cincinnati, on the other hand, could use a
Right.
whole lot of outfielders.
And again, I appreciate the comment. I really do, Uncle Ted.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to happen,
Yeah.
but we'll see. I mean, if it does, it's not necessarily something to be upset about for sure. So, all right, guys.
Max,
Unless
hold on. Max
whoa,
says
whoa,
Braden
whoa.
Montgomery will be in Birmingham next week.
Oh, is that? Oh, I'm sorry. I missed a hot take. My bad, Max. By the way, welcome to the chat. I know I missed a bunch of them while we were talking, and I'm not going to hold the show up too long tonight because unfortunately I am exhausted. I've been working a ton. But yeah, thank you for checking in with your hot take. Braden Montgomery will be in Birmingham next week. I don't know if that's all that hot.
I don't think
I
he
mean,
makes it to June. I don't know about next week, but I don't think he makes it to
yeah,
June.
before the end of the month, maybe I can see that. I can absolutely see that. Thanks for the comment, buddy. Really appreciate it. But I think from here on out, unless I missed anybody else, did I miss anybody else?
I don't think
Let me
so.
scroll back
Uncle
a
Ted
little
just
bit
keeps
here.
throwing out hot takes. So
You know what? I don't mind it though. Uncle Ted definitely helps
gives us
keep our
stuff to
chat
talk
going
about.
every week, and you know, I just want to thank everybody for checking in. I want to thank all the commenters for all your stuff. You guys keep us talking. You guys keep us thinking. Keep us on our toes for sure. And we appreciate that. Uh, appreciate the comments as well. So, if you guys enjoy the content, do us a big favor and go ahead and smash, absolutely destroy, annihilate that like button. Follow, subscribe, hit that little bell for notifications on the old YouTubes. You can also find us on that Purple app. Either one of these apps, you can find us every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. As far as as things are going right now. You can also find our other shows here on our YouTube. You can find Ian and James on Sunday nights. You can find all of, pardon me, excuse me, I am a little choked up there. You can find all of Elijah, Jeff's, and not Cease's stuff going on as well. All of Ian's highlights, if you did not catch them on the Tweet Machine, Twitter X, you can find those here as well on the YouTube channel. If you like to support outside of hitting that like and subscribe button, you can join our Patreon for just a couple bucks a month at FutureSox.net and get your exclusive access to all of our prospect rankings and write-ups, as well as some exclusive articles from all of our bloggers. As always, super chats are open, and we appreciate all and every donation as well. My name is Danny Miller. You can find me on X at Danny Miller FS. For my co-host Jacob Thome on X at JThome21. This has been Hot Takes and Heaters. Again, we appreciate you all. You guys have a great night, and as always, go White Sox.